Hi guys, it's Elliot from tutorialedge.net and welcome to my first tutorial of 2018. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at Lambda functions and more specifically, how you can create a really simple Lambda function using Go. Now Go, if you haven't heard, has just recently been added to AWS's list of supported Lambda languages. This is really exciting, so let's dive in. So what you should see here is the Lambda console, and that can be accessed by going to services and typing Lambda up here. Now if we come back here, the next thing we want to do is to click that create function button in the top right hand corner. And just to get started, we're going to call this my Go function. And we're going to select the Go 1.x runtime. After this, we're going to have to choose the role that defines the permissions of our function. So if we wanted our function to be able to access things like S3, Amazon Glacier, SQS, things like that, we would first have to define a role and then attach the permissions necessary to access those resources to that role. But since I've already got a nice test Lambda role available, we're just going to use that and keep this tutorial nice and simple. After this, we're going to want to create the function by clicking the aptly named create function button. So coming back to this, we should see that congratulations, your Lambda function has been successfully created message at the top of our screen. And below this message, we can see things like our configuration or our designer for our Lambda function. And this allows us to define things like the triggers. So say for instance, we wanted an API to trigger this Lambda function. We could easily add the API gateway here and then configure that. And it also allows us to define what happens after the event that our function is triggered. So we can define things like where our logs go. And by default, all of our logs go to the Amazon CloudWatch logs service. And below this, we should see our function code panel. Now, because Go is just a recently added language, they haven't added the ability to have an inline editor for this just yet. And in order for us to create a Go-based Lambda function, we're going to have to go into our local environment or local editor, create our function, and then upload that as a zip file. So coming back to our favorite text editor, we're going to start creating our Lambda function. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to program our Lambda function in a file called main.go. Once we're happy with this Go program, we're then going to cross-compile it to a Linux binary executable. Once we have this Linux binary executable, we're going to package it up in a zip file, and we're then going to deploy it through the web console. So let's dive in and start coding our Lambda function. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do is package main. We're then going to want to define our list of imports, and we're going to require FMT and the AWS Lambda package, which is github.com/aws/aws lambda-go/lambda. Below this, we're going to want to define two structs. So the first one is of type request struct, and it's going to have two keys. So ID is float64, and it's going to have the key ID. And below that, we're going to do value, which will be of type string and can be accessed through the key value. And again, we're going to want to do one for a type response, which will have message, which will be string, JSON message, and OK, which will be type bool, and JSON OK. The next thing we're going to want to do is define our handler function, and that will look just like this. So func handler, and it'll take in request, and it will output a response or an error. And once we've got this, we want to return response, and we're going to format this with message fmd.fmt.sprintf, and we're going to process request ID and we're going to replace in with the requests ID. Below this, we're going to want to do OK is true. And after this, we just want to return nil for our error. And finally, we're going to want to define our main function, or our entry point to our program. So func main lambda dot start, and we're going to pass in our handler here. Perfect. So once we've done this and we're happy with our Go program, we're then going to want to compile this into a Linux-based binary executable. So the way we do that is by calling goose equals Linux, go build, and we're going to do -o to main. Once we've done this, we should have our main binary executable, and we can go into our file explorer and we can then zip up our binary executable. So compress main, and within our AWS Lambda management console, we then want to upload our main.zip. And I've already done that because my internet is incredibly slow, and I have saved it. So the other thing you have to note here is that the handler matches the name of the binary executable that you're throwing up. So because I've called this main, your handler also needs to be called main, or else this just won't work. The next thing we need to do is create a test event. So I have configured a test event that has an ID and a value of some value, and I've saved that. So I can then click the test button and I should see the following. So in this case, the execution result of this test has succeeded, and we can see that the message has been returned and it's processed the request ID of 12345 dot a million zeros, and it's passed back that it's been okay. In this console, we can also see some other cool things, such as the duration that our Lambda function took to execute, the resources configured, and the max memory used. So fairly cool. And that is pretty much everything you need in order to get up and running with creating a Lambda function. Now, bear in mind that there are other ways that you can deploy your Lambda function. You can use things like the AWS CLI, or you could actually automatically deploy your Lambda functions using services such as Code Pipeline, Code Deploy, Code Build, things like that. It's up to yourself, and I'd encourage you to look into these sort of services to see what is available. But as this is just a tutorial to introduce you to creating your own Go-based Lambda functions, I've kept this nice and simple and done things manually just to show you the steps. Now, I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you did, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more programming-based tutorials. And for those of you that are interested in learning more about cloud development, I'd recommend you check out my book, An Introduction to Cloud Development, that I'll be publishing over the next few months through LeanPub. Cheers, guys.